I never expected a little girl to change my life. Her innocent question left the CEO speechless. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension. My heart raced as I faced the boardroom full of expectant eyes. I was the king of my world, a CEO with a polished suit and crafted words to charm investors. But then, her tiny figure burst into the room, bringing with her an unsettling energy. She was no taller than my knee, eyes wide with curiosity and mischief. The silence swallowed me whole. "Why do you make money?" she asked, her voice ringing like a bell in the stillness. My polished facade cracked. Here was this little girl, so innocent and unfiltered, throwing me off balance. The question hung in the air, heavy and surreal. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I felt my heart jerk, a strange uneasiness creeping in. How could she know that behind the glossy reports and successful investments, we were all just chasing something? My thoughts raced back to my childhood, to dreams and laughter. I remembered my mother's warm embrace, the way she used to tell me stories of adventure and kindness. I wished to open my heart to her then, but here I was, tangled in my own tight grip of ambition. There was something magical about her naivety. It amplified the emptiness I felt beneath the surface. The other board members shifted uncomfortably. Murmurs rippled through the room like a storm brewing. They looked at me, eyebrows raised, waiting for my response. But all I could see was her innocent face, unclouded by the weight of the world. "Isn't making money supposed to make you happy?" she asked, tilting her head. I could feel heat rise in my cheeks, shame mixing with anger. Who was this child cupping my secrets in her tiny hands? I felt a lump rise in my throat. Each second stretched, a painful eternity, as I grasped for something to say. Something to defend my hollow existence. Just then, the power went out. The room swallowed itself in darkness. My breath caught in my throat. I could sense the panic as chairs scuffed against the floor. The sudden thudding of heartbeats took over the room. And in that stillness, I realized she was my only light. "Do you like money?" she whispered into the silence, her voice trembling and calm, a tiny torch exposing my fragile soul. Her question struck me deep. The walls closed in, a labyrinth of doubt. As the lights flickered back on, revealing frightened faces and a chaos I hadn't expected, I knew I was standing at the precipice of something extraordinary. Could a little girl really hold the key to my life unraveling? What if I had been chasing the wrong dreams all along? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed that fateful day in the boardroom blurred into a haze. I navigated through meetings and presentations, but the little girl's question haunted me like a ghost I couldn't shake off. My mind drifted, caught between the relentless pursuit of success and the weight of her innocent inquiry. "Why do you make money?" The question buzzed incessantly in my thoughts, twisting itself into tangles of regret and confusion. On a rainy afternoon, trapped in my office, I stared at the skyline, the world below veiled in a curtain of gray. My reflection in the glass seemed foreign, a stranger clad in suits and fatigue, a mask over my disillusionment. It felt as though I were drowning in expectations that weren't mine, struggling to stay afloat in a sea of profitability that offered me no solace. To distract myself, I threw myself deeper into work, but each click of the keyboard felt like a desperate plea against an oncoming tide. It was during one of those relentless hours, a message buzzed on my phone, interrupting the numbness. A picture from my sister appeared. It showed my nephew, barely 5, with a crumpled piece of paper, announcing his lemonade stand. "Just like Uncle, right?" The caption read. I couldn't muster a smile. Not now, not when the weight of my choices pressed down on me like a boulder. That Saturday, I decided to visit my sister's neighborhood. As I walked the familiar path, snippets of laughter echoed in the air, pulling me toward a sunny corner where kids set up their makeshift stalls, joyfully shouting about their wares. It was a sweet, innocent racket, the kind that reminded me of my own childhood. Their laughter punctured the heavy thoughts churning inside me, if only for a moment. Hey, uncle. My nephew squealed upon spotting me. He ran over, arms outstretched. A wave of warmth washed over me. I knelt to give him a hug, inhaling the scent of childhood innocence. Wanna buy some lemonade? He beamed, presenting a cup with sticky fingers. Of course. How much? I asked, feeling a flicker of hope. Just a dime. He chirped, and as I paid him, he handed me the cup with unbridled enthusiasm. His eyes sparkled with pride as he watched me take a sip. How does it taste? Refreshing, just like you, I replied, and his laughter became infectious. I watched as he scampered back, confident in his little world where a few coins brought forth unadulterated joy. As I observed his interaction with other children, the innocence mirrored that of the little girl from the boardroom. It struck me then my nephew, all wrapped up in this adventure of making money, found joy in simple things, while I had barricaded myself behind financial jargon and sterile boardroom discussions. Later that day, as we sat on their porch, cuddled on the swing, I started sharing stories of my childhood, intertwined with lessons of kindness and exploration. He listened, enamored, and I sensed a shift within myself. Each word I spoke was like peeling away the layers of rigid ambition that had encased me. But the moment slipped away all too quickly. My sister, stepping out of the house, carried a somber expression that clouded the sunlight. She took a seat next to me, her fingers tapping nervously on her knee. Have you heard from Mom? She asked, her voice dipping low. The question struck me like a storm. My chest felt tight. My mother had moved to a care facility months ago due to her failing health, and I had poured every ounce of energy into work, neglecting to pay her a visit. Guilt clawed at my heart, gnawing away at the remnants of the warm conversation with my nephew. I haven't seen her in weeks, I admitted, words thick with regret. Maybe you should. She asks about you often, says you're too busy for your own mother, she replied, her voice trembling. I think she needs you now more than ever. I felt the weight of her words settle deep within me. What kind of son was I, too lost in my world of numbers to be there for the person who nurtured my dreams? Hope flickered amid my despair, igniting the small voice inside that had once resided in my heart. Maybe it was time to confront the truth I had been avoiding. As I lay in bed that night, images of my mother flooded my mind. The scent of her favorite jasmine perfume, her laughter echoing around the house as she spun stories that made the mundane magical. Tears spilled onto my pillow as I questioned my choices, the endless pursuit of money versus the love and warmth that money could never buy, and just at that moment, my phone buzzed again, breaking the stillness. I reached for it, my breath hitching. It was a message from an unknown number. Curiosity pierced through my desolation. Hesitantly, I tapped it open. My heart stopped as I read the text. I know why you make money. We need to talk. Meet me tomorrow at the park. A sense of dread washed over me, mixed with an undercurrent of intrigue. I stared at the message, heart racing, the little girl's innocent question echoing in my mind. Could this be an opportunity for clarity, or would it unravel more questions than I was ready to face? I rolled onto my back, staring at the ceiling, uncertain of what the next day would bring. With dawn breaking softly through the curtains, I was already awake, lost in a labyrinth of thoughts that tangled and twisted in my mind. That mysterious message loomed large, pregnant with an urgency that had me second-guessing everything. Why did they want to meet? Who were they? My heart raced, each unanswered question feeling like a weight on my chest, urging me to make a decision. I dressed in a daze, consumed by the urgency of the day ahead. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for my phone, half expecting another message that might guide me through the uncertainty. But the screen remained still, mocking me with its silence. Taking a deep breath, I headed out, a rush of cool morning air greeting me with each step. The park was a haunt of tranquility amid the bustle of the world, a sanctuary where laughter and chatter seemed to linger like a well-loved melody. Children flew kites that danced in the brisk breeze, their joy a vibrant reminder of unencumbered lives. I took a seat on a bench, an inconspicuous observer, only my thoughts and worries keeping me company. As I sat there, waiting, I felt a mixture of hope and dread. Perhaps this meeting would finally align the pieces of my internal puzzle. Maybe I would find a way to articulate the conflict-consuming Mimi desire for financial success scraping against my yearning for deeper connections, for love, for human warmth. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as I fidgeted with the edges of the bench. Just as I thought of leaving, a little girl with curious eyes approached. She was probably no older than the girl from the boardroom. Her sandy-carpeted hair danced in the wind, and her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Are you waiting for someone?" she asked, her voice like the tinkling bells of a distant dream. "Yes, I am," I replied, not entirely sure if she was someone I was meant to interact with. "I hope they're nice." She beamed, her innocent grin managing to momentarily slice through my anxiety. I chuckled softly. "I hope so too, sometimes people just need a little kindness," she offered, oblivious to the shadows lurking behind my ruminations. "Wise words for someone so young," I said, marveling at how her simplicity sparked something in me. She tilted her head, examining me with those wide, gentle eyes. "And sometimes, they forget to be kind to themselves," she added thoughtfully, the weight of her statement lingering in the air between us. I paused, struck by her words. Perhaps I had lost sight of the kindness I needed to extend to myself amidst the fray of my ambitions. But before I could respond, she skipped away, her laughter trailing behind her like a soft melody. Just then, I spotted a figure approaching from the distance, a silhouette I would come to recognize soon. A woman stepped into view, and my heart twisted, recognition dawning like sunlight. It was the little girl's mother, the same woman I'd spoken with the previous week at the boardroom meeting, the one whose direct gaze had peered right into my soul. As she drew closer, I felt an abrupt wave of anxiety wash over me. What would she say? Was she here to offer insight or simply to fulfill a lingering obligation? "Thank you for coming," she greeted me, her voice steady, reflecting a depth I hadn't anticipated. I wasn't sure what to expect," I admitted, feeling the tautness of the moment wrap around us both. "I think we both know why I reached out," she said cautiously, her eyes burrowing into mine. "It's about your choices, and what they're costing you." I felt my lungs tighten at her words. "That's not a topic I easily discuss," I managed to say, my stomach twisting with unease. "I know you feel trapped," she continued, "but it's important you understand that the pursuit of wealth shouldn't overshadow what truly matters: relationships, love, and genuine joy. That little girl from the boardroom, she is the embodiment of that truth." Her voice became a thread weaving through the fabric of my confusion. I opened my mouth to respond, but words escaped me like a fading whisper. As she spoke, that girl's genuine innocence emerged again in my mind, urging me to confront my internal war. "Sometimes we all need to face difficult truths," she pressed, her gaze unyielding yet strangely compassionate. "I can help you, guide you if you let me." The air tensed around us. I sensed the undercurrent of her desperate emotion, perhaps a reminder of her own struggles. But just as I was about to accept her offer, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, interrupting our profound exchange. I fished it out, heart racing, only to discover a message from my sister, the sheer content of it sending ripple shocks through my mind. "Mom fell last night, not sure how serious it is. Please come to the hospital." Panic gripped me, entwining with the earlier conversation. The indomitable ache in my chest returned, pleading for attention. I have to go," I stammered, my voice trembling before she could respond. "Wait." She reached out, her hand extending as if to bridge the chasm of uncertainty we stood on. "You have to choose, but let me help guide you." Feeling as if I was being torn between two worlds, two pressing realities, I glanced from her eyes filled with compassion and urgency then toward the open space beyond the park filled with children, laughter, and the sweetness of innocence. I was caught a wave of emotions surfacing, an uncontrollable yearning for connection, family, and self-reckoning that I don't know how, I said, the words flooding out, a plead for clarity. As the woman opened her mouth to respond, the sound of sirens pierced through the tranquility, drawing my eyes to the street corner. My heart dropped at the sight of an ambulance, lights flashing violently against the morning sky. I have to go, I muttered, feeling the ground shift underneath me. The rush of uncertainty crashed upon me like a tidal wave as I took off toward the street, the little girl's words echoing in my mind: kindness, the truths I'd buried, and the looming presence of my mother's fragility. There was no guarantee of what lay ahead though, only the urgent need to choose between the path I had been walking and the one that opened up before me, beckoning with the warmth of possibility. Time felt as fleeting as autumn leaves caught in the wind, scattering my resolve, as I dove into the unknown, leaving that woman behind with her unanswered questions floating ominously in the air. The hospital loomed ahead, a stark, sterile monument to everything I feared: uncertainty, fragility, and the painful reality of family. Each step I took was heavy with dread, past rows of potted plants that struggled to thrive in the shadows of flickering fluorescent lights. Just a week ago, my priorities had seemed so clear: the drive for power, the relentless hunger for success, but now those ambitions felt as vulnerable as the bundled-up patients drifting through the hallways. As I approached the reception desk, the nurse's practiced smile faded slightly upon noticing my distress. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone firm, but her eyes softened at the sight of my frazzled demeanor. "I am looking for my mother, Josephine Lancaster." "I heard she was admitted," I managed to say, the words caught in my throat as if they were weighed down by bricks of fear. Her fingers danced swiftly across the keyboard, and she glanced up, her expression drifting into something I couldn't quite decipher. "You can head to room 245. She's stable for now," she said, though her voice carried an undercurrent of sympathy that twisted my stomach further. Before I could express gratitude, I was already racing toward the designated corridor, my heart pounding loudly against my rib cage. When I reached the room, the door was slightly ajar, revealing the silhouette of my mother against the sterile backdrop. A small figure perched on the edge of the hospital bed, my father, weary and worn, cradling her hand gently. "Mom," I gasped, stepping inside. The weariness on my father's face crinkled into a smile when he looked up, offering a flicker of reassurance. "Hey there," my mother's voice, though weak, still held that familiar warmth, contrasting harshly with the stark surroundings. "It's just a small fall, don't worry," she continued, though her drawn features belied her words. "You scared me," I confessed, the trepidation I felt crashing over me like a wave, overwhelming and powerful. I stepped closer, gripping her hand, so fragile yet still instinctively seeking the connection that had once felt unbreakable. "It's a bruised ego more than anything," she laughed lightly, but it came out as a tired cough. My heart ached. Laughter, something that had always filled our household, now felt like a distant echo in the sterile walls. As I sat beside her, the enormity of recent events enveloped me like a fog. Words floated just beyond my reach. How could I possibly confide my woes when she was laying there, so vulnerable? Peeking up at my father, I could see the worry etched deeply into his brows. "I'm just glad you're here," he said. "We've missed you." His voice, though calm, held an urgent undercurrent. "Why didn't you call me sooner?" I questioned, though the apprehension lacing my words was quickly washed away by his weary gaze. "We didn't want to worry you," he replied, and the enormity of their consideration bordered on suffocating. They had suffered, kept their struggles tucked away as I chased shadows, and now their sacrifice weighed heavily on my conscience. "That I could have been here," I murmured, unsure if I was speaking to my parents or the deeper echoes of my own guilt. As they exchanged gentle glances, an unexpected respite washed over the air, brightened by a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this moment was exactly what I needed: a mirror reflecting my intentions and path, forcing me to confront not only their vulnerability, but my own. Hours passed, the mundane tick of time felt different within these walls. I found comfort in the ordinary: the rustle of nurses, the beeps of machines, the intermittent laughter of family members visiting beyond the curtain. Each sound reminded me what truly mattered: the connections I had neglected in the wake of ambition, but just as I began to feel a thread of clarity unraveling, the door creaked open. A nurse peeked in, urgency written clearly across her features. "Excuse me, we need to move Mrs. Lancaster for a few tests," she announced, and before I could protest, my mother was gently wheeled away. Watching those wheels glide past me felt like witnessing a slow-motion disaster. "Mom!" I called, the panic clawing at my insides as the nurse ushered her out. "Everything will be okay," my mother's voice floated back, steady yet laced with weariness. "I'll be right back," she promised, but there was something unsettling about the way her words lingered in the air as she disappeared around the corner. Just then, I noticed a similar nurse standing by the desk. She was younger, her face bearing the flecks of compassion intertwined with determination. "You doing all right?" she asked, her quiet voice caressing the edges of my turmoil. "Yes, just worried," I admitted, feeling the tension in my chest shift slightly. "Worrying won't change the outcome," she replied gently. "But when your loved ones are in here, sometimes all you can do is focus on the moments you have together. Make them matter." Her words struck deeply, a poignant reminder of what I had been neglecting. A kindness extended in just a few simple phrases, illuminating my heart like a flickering candle in the dark. Following her gaze to the sterile bulletin board covered in patient artworks, crayon drawings of stick figures holding hands, bright depictions that conveyed joy against their muted surroundings, I felt a surge of inspiration. Maybe it wasn't too late to rethink everything. Yet, just as I was starting to grasp the thread of this revelation, an elderly gentleman burst through the double doors of the entrance, his face twisted in fear and panic. My heart dropped at that look, a dread that resonated eerily with my own. "He's with her!" he shouted, desperation in his voice as he rushed past us, causing my mind to spin with the realization that lives are so often interconnected in unexpected and profound ways. In that moment, my phone buzzed again, vibrating insistently in my pocket. I fished it out, breath holding at the thought of news, good or bad. I couldn't fathom which it would be, only to see a message from my sister. "Something's happened. You need to come back home." The world tilted under me as confusion mixed with dread. All the learnings from the day, the urgency I was beginning to grasp, collided with this new reality, leaving me stranded between two lives, me family burdened by worry, and my ambition still whispering sweet temptations. As I stood there transfixed, the air thick with burdens of grief, fear, and unspoken ties, I faced an undeniable truth: the findings from this journey were far from reaching fruition, and I had yet to navigate the tumultuous rivers stemming from both love and loss. The waiting room felt like a tightrope strung between two worlds, one filled with the worry of my mother's well-being, and the other drawing me back to home, to my past. As I stared at my phone, the message from my sister danced mockingly across the screen. My breath quickened, and I focused on the mundane details around me: the stark blue of the walls, the wheel of the gurney pushed by another weary nurse, a toddler wailing for what I could only assume was her mother. I fought the tides of emotion threatening to pull me under. I turned to the nurse with the gentle gaze who had offered me solace moments before. "Excuse me," I said, my voice cracking under the weight of my uncertainty, "can I leave? Is there anything that you think that I should know?" She regarded me with the kind of understanding that comes from years of witnessing people at their most vulnerable. "You do what you feel is right for you and your family," she said after a moment. "But remember, sometimes leaving is not an escape, it's just a part of the process." Her words resonated within me. Was I ready to confront whatever awaited me back home, or was I just running back to a past I thought I could manage? Did moments of fear define us, or did we define them? I took a shaky breath, contemplating whether to stay or go. Then, through the heavy haze of anxiety, something unexpected caught my eye: a small girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, seated across from me with her mother. She had curly hair that framed her oval face, and her bright navy dress contrasted sharply with the sterile environment. She was busy coloring in a coloring book, the pages filled with whimsical creatures and cheerful colors that seemed to leap out of their dull surroundings. Out of nowhere, she looked up, her wide azure eyes locking onto me, an open curiosity blooming in her gaze. "Why are you sad?" she asked, her innocent tone cutting through my swirling worries like sunlight splitting through clouds. That I was momentarily taken aback. the simplicity of her question stark against the complex web of my adult concerns. "I'm not sure," I stammered, suddenly aware of how complicated my emotions were. "My mom is sick," her brow furrowed, framing a face that was a mixture of sympathy and sincerity. "I'm sure she'll be okay. My friend's mom was in the hospital last month, and she got better. You should draw her a picture," she said, her voice bubbling with the energy of someone who truly believed in the power of kindness. The thought drew a smile from the depths of my heart, an involuntary reaction to a small sliver of hope poking through the heavy fog of worry. "That's very sweet of you," I replied, the edges of my anxiety softening slightly as I parsed her sincerity. "Do you want to borrow my crayons?" she offered, her tiny hand extending towards me with a box of brightly colored crayons. "You can color a picture for your mommy, and it will make her happy." The simple gesture and the pure intention behind it grasped my heart and squeezed. How was it that this little girl, with her innocent suggestion, managed to shift something within me? "Thank you," I said softly, accepting the crayons, realizing then that perhaps the worst thing was not the uncertainty surrounding my mother, but my insistence on holding on to fear instead of allowing light to seep in through the cracks. Just as I started to lift a sky blue crayon to a scrap of paper, my phone buzzed again, this time, its shrill tone cutting deeper than before. It was another text. A single word flashed on the screen: "Now." My breath caught in my throat. Was now the moment everything changed? Or did I need to make a decision I was terrified to confront? The small girl's earnest gaze held mine steady, an anchor in this tempest of emotion. With determination igniting inside me, I turned back to my phone. "I'm going home," I murmured to the girl, my heart racing as emotions and decisions conjoined in a chaotic flow. She beamed, unfazed by the dread that staggered through me. "Good. You can draw her a rainbow, and that will make everything better." "Absolutely." I smiled, pulling from somewhere deep within, rekindling the faintest flicker of hope that had been warded off for too long. Standing to leave, I glanced back towards the nurse. Her encouraging nod spurred my movement forward. I had a battle to face back home, life pressing down upon me with a weight I still struggled to comprehend. Earlier decisions and ambitions felt irrelevant now, a mere backdrop to the vibrant canvas of love and connection that was my family. The little girl returned to her drawings, and I carried the crayon box in my hand like a talisman as I strode towards the exit. But as the double doors slid open, my heart sunk like stone. The world beyond awaited with an uncertain whirlwind of obligations. Would I muster the strength to face whatever news awaited me, and was I making the right choice to prioritize family over ambition? As I stepped out into the sterile hallway once more, tense and palpable silence loomed, the unsettling weight of the day settling heavier upon my shoulders. The shadows stretched out around me, but a new energy pulsed within. A flurry of thoughts circled like birds against the shimmering pull of the unknown. That I had to know what was happening. I had to face whatever awaited. Yet as I walked towards the elevator, the little girl's laughter echoed faintly in my mind, reminding me that sometimes hope comes in the most unexpected forms. But at that juncture, before I could take another step, I heard a familiar voice bellowing through the corridor. "Where is he? Where's my son?" My heart plummeted as I turned toward the sound. It was my father, the panic in his voice unmistakable, drawing me back into a reality I wished to avoid. The chaos had just begun. The rush of my father's voice jolted me into a state of overwhelming dread. His figure, slightly hunched under the weight of unease, was a startling contrast to the vibrant memory of the little girl's playful laughter still echoing in my mind. My chest tightened as I took hesitant steps toward him, the familiar flash of a childhood filled with his towering presence and unwavering strength now overshadowed by an uncharacteristic vulnerability. "Where is he?" he demanded again, his gaze scanning the sterile expanse as though searching for a lifeline. I swallowed hard, bracing myself for the questions I knew would spill forth like a torrent. "Dad," I said, my voice trembling with both authority and uncertainty. "I'm here." When his eyes landed on me, they glistened like freshly polished marble, an odd blend of desperation and hope. "You were supposed to be here hours ago." "I know," I replied, fighting the urge to flinch from the sharp edge of his tone. Never mind that now. It's your mother slipping. The words hung in the air like an ominous cloud, casting a shadow over our conversation. My heart ached at his admission, yet a flicker of defiance ignited within me. Is that why you're here? To blame me? His shoulders sagged, fatigue evident in every line etched on his face. No, it's just everything feels like it's falling apart. The truth of his statement resonated in my chest. Everything was falling apart, but the blame seemed misplaced amidst the shared sorrow of our family. We can't afford to fight right now, Dad. We need to be there for her, I said, my voice firm and resolved. The little girl's innocent encouragement pushed me forward like an invisible guide. His expression softened, and for a fleeting moment, the fear receded, revealing the father I'd known before the weight of responsibility eclipsed our connection. You're right, he conceded, running a trembling hand through his thinning hair. We should be near her. The bond between us, frayed from years of ambition and unspoken resentment, tangled once more, and I sensed a glimmer of what we had lost to misunderstandings and distance. My resolve swelled, reminding me of the laughter and warmth of childhood stories told on rainy days. As we turned to navigate the stark hallway side by side, I felt the heavy bass of my heart echo in unison with his. We were both grappling with our fears, stranded in a place where decisive moments lingered just beyond reach. Have you heard from Anna? He asked abruptly, referencing my estranged sister. The air thickened as the weight of her absence loomed above us, a needling reminder of all that had gone unsaid. That I shook my head, unwilling to dive into the depths of that venomous well. She hasn't replied. Maybe she's overwhelmed too, I offered, trying to shield us both from the storm of unexpressed words and hurt. Damn it, she should be here. My father's voice rose, an echo of the chaos we faced, his pent-up frustration spilling over like a river straining against the bank. I paused, wrestling with the energy of that moment, feeling the boy I once was wanting to shrink back, the boy who wanted nothing more than to please his father. But the man I had become sparked a new resolve. Maybe she doesn't know she can come, I said gently. Maybe she feels just as lost as we do. He fell silent, as if my words had cast a lifeline amidst turbulent waters. Perhaps, in acknowledging our shared struggles, we could tether ourselves to someone else. We progressed down the hall, arriving at the waiting area where the fluorescent lights flickered unsteadily. A wave of shifting emotions washed over me. I could almost hear the resonance of unspoken fears reverberating through the crowd of anxious families, hearts intertwined in quiet desperation. However, at that moment, a commotion erupted, and I turned to see a nurse rushing in. She was followed closely by another doctor, her expression pinched with urgency. They were a whirlwind of activity framed within the silence that had preceded us, the kind of silence pregnant with too many fears. What's happening? I questioned, the tremor in my voice betraying the uncertainty flickering like a candle in the wind. Is your mother Delilah Clark? The nurse asked, her voice calm, yet there was a steeliness within it. Yes. Dad replied sharply, moving closer to the nurse as I stood rooted to the ground, the words piercing through me like nothing I had experienced before. The nurse's eyes landed on us, filled with a mix of compassion and urgency. We're taking her in for emergency stabilization. Her condition has worsened, and we need to act fast. The weight of her words settled on my chest like a boulder, pressing down on the last remnants of composure I had left. Is she? I hesitated, fear rushing to cloak my thoughts. Please wait here, the nurse interrupted, already moving away, leaving behind a shroud of uncertainty in her wake. My heart pounded as I exchanged a glance with my father, who wore an expression equally etched with dread, and just when I thought it couldn't get heavier, my phone buzzed again, a single ping that resonated through the heavy silence. I glanced down. The choice between burdening my already fraying mind or plunging into the unknown clawed at my insides. A text from Anna. I'm coming. At that moment, the world narrowed down to the small but significant weight of a message, life and death hanging in precarious balance, and with it, a blessed drop of hope amidst a storm of despair. That I could feel the swell of something breaking inside me, the urge to run toward the uncontrolled universe spinning just beyond my reach. Would my heart resist the urge to plunge back into fear, or would I find the strength to embrace the tumult and all the while, get ready to confront whatever direction the tide might turn? As my heart raced, echoing with the possibility of hope, I stood there waiting, for the next wave to crash. The sterile ambience of the hospital felt suffocating as anxiety wrapped itself around me. The waiting area, once a backdrop to fleeting memories of hope, now transformed into a stage of uncertainty and trembling hearts. My phone buzzed in my hand, its sober glow pulling at my attention, the words from Anna igniting a flicker of determination. "I'm coming," the modest yet powerful promise spiraled through me, dismantling the walls that had grown between us. For so long, her absence felt like a wound raw and aching, yet uncared for. But something shifted with that simple message. It was as if a small crack had formed in the icy barrier between us, allowing warmth to seep through. "Do you think she's really coming?" My father's voice broke the suffocating silence, laced with a cautious optimism. I turned to him, searching his eyes for reassurance, understanding that our unspoken bond now rested on this fragile thread that I do. I swallowed, trying to infuse my response with the strength I barely felt. "I think she's finally ready to face this." He nodded slowly, a tentative glimmer in his expression as if my words reached into the caverns of hope we had kept buried for far too long. "Well, need all of us to get through this," he murmured, the gravity of his sentiment resonating deeply. As minutes felt like hours, we waited, our breaths synchronized in tight, fragile intervals. I closed my eyes, leaning back against the hard chair, trying to conjure that lightness from childhood, the laughter, the carefree spirit of sisterhood. But the memories were hauntingly laced with longing, a void left behind by Anna's absence, and it gnawed at me relentlessly. Suddenly, I sensed a movement, a flurry of activity in the corner of my eye. I turned to see a little girl, no older than 7, standing at the entrance, her small frame dwarfed by the looming hospital doors. Her jacket was oversized, sleeves hanging past her hands, and her wide eyes were pools of innocent curiosity as they darted around, absorbing the chaos surrounding her. Something about her presence paralyzed my thoughts, transfixed by the purity she embodied amidst all this turmoil. It was as if she were a beacon of light, transcending the shadows of despair. "Mommy!" she called, her voice breaking through the tension like a sing-song melody, oblivious to the atmosphere heavy with dread. Her small figure raced toward a woman frantically scribbling on a clipboard. In that instant, my heart tightened. The sound of the girl's plea, rattling and sweet, was a stark reminder of how deeply love still thrived in the cracks of our lives. Could it be that we too could unearth connection again, even when the world seemed to fracture around us? "What's the little girl doing here?" my father whispered, unease lacing his tone. "Maybe she's waiting for her mother, too." "Just like us," I replied without taking my eyes off her. A fleeting moment of vulnerability flickered between my father and me. Here was someone so small, yet her need for connection resonated with an intensity neither of us could ignore. "Are you scared?" I heard her timidly ask, her words tumbling from her lips, unfiltered, innocent and genuine. The woman turned slightly, her expression softening as she shrugged, her professional facade momentarily replaced by nurturing warmth. "Maybe a little, honey," she chuckled softly. "But I have you, so I feel brave." "Okay." The girl beamed up at her mother, as though validating the strength they shared through love overshadowed their fear. Somehow, the simple exchange breathed a life into the wallpapered confines of the waiting area, a gentle reminder of what truly mattered, showing up for one another, brave or scared. Suddenly, I felt my phone buzz once again, a reminder that reality remained a persistent shadow. I glanced down, seeing Anna's name pop up again, this time with a photo attached. I opened it, my heart stuttering as my sister's face stared back at me, captured in a fleeting moment of joy, shaking hands with a friend at a poetry night. It was a reminder of the woman she once was before the scars of our families. Divide the girl who laughed easily and embraced the moment. "What is it?" My father leaned in, his curiosity tangible. "It's Anna," I whispered, warmth flooding through me at the sight. She's alive. At that very instant, the little girl turned around, as if sensing my shift in spirit. She caught my gaze and her small mouth broke into an exuberant grin, silently offering a reminder that life still thrived amidst chaos. The phone buzzed yet again, this time a message from Anna following the photo. "I'm almost there. Tell Mom I love her." A mix of emotions surged within me, hope danced with urgency, promising yet another crucial moment on the horizon. My heart raced at the thought that maybe we could grasp at forgiveness and understanding. Would this be the moment that turned the tide for our family, or merely another fleeting dream lost in the current? "Joseph?" My father's voice broke through, his brow furrowed with concern. "You're pale. Are you all right?" Looking back, I locked eyes with the little girl once more. In her gaze was something profound, a question, an affirmation. Did she sense that change was coming? I nodded at my father, determination igniting through the tempest within. "Yeah, I'm okay. I think we're about to get a surprise," I breathed, my voice steadying with the brush of the unfamiliar hope. But then, as if the universe sought to test the fragile uplift of our spirits, the nurse re-entered, her demeanor serious, an unsettling omen casting shadows across the fledgling light. "Mr. Clark, we need to speak with you," she said crisply, her words echoing through the waiting area, the very air falling heavy as if reality had reared its unyielding head. The burden of uncertainty weighed once more, and I felt my heart pound treacherously. With everything hanging in the balance, would the news she carried choke our blossoming hope? What storm lay ahead as we stood on the precipice of something monumental, teetering between despair and possibility? With Anna just moments away and the weight of potential loss bearing down upon us, I felt the tug of fate drawing tighter, demanding we face whatever revelation surged toward us. As the nurse's words hung heavily in the air, I could feel my father's tension radiating across the space. He nodded, following her without another word, leaving a chasm of uncertainty in the wake of his departure. The brief flicker of hope I had felt moments earlier began to dim, retreating like the last light of a waning sunset. I pressed my hands into my knees, grounding myself as I fought the rising tide of dread. The little girl still stood nearby, her gaze fixed on me, evidently curious about the sudden shift in our atmosphere. There was a moment of quiet communion between us, something unspoken that bridged the distance of our vastly different worlds. While the adults wrestled with the chaos of life and death, she remained an innocent observer, free from the weight of expectations or prior trauma. "What's wrong?" she asked softly, tilting her head like a small bird, her innocent curiosity making the skin on my arms prick with urgency. A lump formed in my throat. "I am not sure yet," I managed to reply, wishing desperately I had the answers that could soothe not only her worry but my own. "My sister is coming, but we're waiting to see if everything will be okay," her brows furrowed seriously, the depth of her youth revealing a wisdom far beyond her years. "You should tell her you love her," she insisted, pushing her small fists into the pockets of her oversized jacket. "Do you think that will help?" I asked, surprised by such a profound yet simple insight spilling from those tiny lips. "Of course. My mommy says love is the best medicine. It helps even when things are super scary," she replied, a bright smile breaking the tension that had encased me. My heart swelled at her innocent conviction. Love as medicinite was something I had forgotten in the tumult of recent days. The idea warmed me, igniting a spark of defiance against the encroaching gloom, and suddenly I felt the urge to reach out, to embrace the possibility of healing that she represented. Perhaps when Anna arrived, I could share this newfound wisdom with her, remind us both of the light we had neglected. But just as a flame flickers with uncertainty, the door opened once more. My father stepped through, his face pale, shadows gathering under his eyes like storm clouds. Time froze for a fleeting moment. "Joseph," he breathed, each syllable heavy with a weight I sensed before he even spoke again. We need to talk." My stomach twisted, the air departed my lungs as he approached. "What is it?" I asked, dread pulling at the edges of my voice. The little girl had moved slightly closer to me, tension mirrored in her tiny figure. He hesitated, searching for words, an ocean of silent turmoil behind his eyes. It's about Anna. There's been a complication in that simple statement. I saw the barrier of hope fracture, our fleeting moments of laughter and sweetness swallowed by the uncertainty looming ahead. What kind of complication? I pressed, desperate for clarity as my bones turned to ice. She's been in an accident, he finally managed, each word striking like a hammer on glass. Not serious, but they need to keep her longer for observation. They're worried about some internal bleeding. The flood of panic rushed over me like a tidal wave, as if the ground had shifted beneath my feet. How could this be happening? Just as the thread of connection between us was starting to mend, life threw yet another curveball, testing every ounce of strength I had left to hold on to hope. I can't believe this, I murmured, my heart racing as tears threatened to spill. The girl beside me reached for my hand, squeezing it with unexpected fierceness. There was something powerful in her touch, a reminder that though the news was horrific, the opportunity for something beautiful still lingered. But she's not gone, right? She asked, her large eyes searching mine for reassurance. She's still coming. Yes, she's still coming, I confirmed, forcing the words past the tightness in my throat. She will be here soon. Then it'll be okay, she said with the confidence of someone far older in a voice so pure it felt like a balm to my shattered heart. I hope you're right, I replied, the mirage of hope flickering on the horizon as I conjured the idea that love might indeed be the medicine we needed to combat our despair. Just then, my phone buzzed on my lap, drawing my attention away from the worries etched in my father's face. Another notification from Anna. Before I could even process the impending dread, the screen lit up with her words, "I'm sorry. The hospital sent me back after the accident. I'm stuck here." The world began to whirl around me, the child's grip on my hand felt like the last tether drawing me back from the brink of despair. She looked up at me, her expression morphing into one of understanding, a tiny warrior standing alongside me as the storm raged. The text came crashing into my consciousness with a revelation that turned my heart upside down. If Anna was not coming, if she was still trapped in this chaos, where did that leave us? Would we be forever entangled in this web of miscommunication and pain? Suddenly, I was struck by a realization more profound than the fear tightening its grip around me. In that moment, I understood the true weight of love and connection. How fragile it was, yet resilient even in the darkest hours, it had the power to illuminate the way forward. But now, uncertainty loomed like a shadow on the edge of our family's reunion, leaving only a hollow echo of unfulfilled promises and dreams. The little girl's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts, reminding me once more, "Tell her you love her. It'll help." "Right," I whispered, clutching my phone tightly, the weight of her words grounding me. "I will." But as I prepared to reply, another buzz shattered my thoughts, a reminder that the storm was very far from over. My father stepped closer, his brow furrowed deeper, the urgency thickening the air. "We need to figure out what to do next," he implored, the gravity of our situation settling heavily between us. With Anna's fate now uncertain and the looming shadows of despair closing in, I had to ask myself, could love truly be enough to bridge the chasm that had grown in her absence, or would we find ourselves lost in the dark? The sterile scent of antiseptic filled my nostrils as I leaned my forehead against the cool, hard wall of the waiting room, a makeshift haven amidst the chaos swirling in my heart. I had just texted Anna, pouring every ounce of emotion I felt into those strings of words, but even as I initiated the message, a sense of foreboding washed over me. Would it reach her? Would she truly feel the gravity of my feelings, or would it remain lost in the ether, oblivious and alone like so many of my own thoughts? The little girl, steadfastly anchored next to me, startled me from my thoughts, her gentle tug on my sleeve reminding me that I was not alone even in my darkest moments. "Hey," she ventured, her voice soft, yet firm, as if she were conveying the significance of the simple word. "Is everything okay?" I attempted to summon a smile, reassuring both her and myself. "Kind of, it's complicated is okay," she replied, her candor almost disarming. "Sometimes life gets complicated for me too. Like when my puppy chewed my favorite toy. That was the worst day ever. Her eyes sparkled with the tail, momentarily lifting the darkness that lurked behind mine that I couldn't help but chuckle, a slight crack in the impenetrable wall of my despair. Well, that does sound pretty bad, and then my dad bought me an even better toy. She continued, undeterred. It was a squeaky chicken. Best toy ever. Her enthusiasm was infectious. Perhaps that's where love began, not with grand gestures but with simple moments, the little joys woven into the fabric of everyday life. I wanted to believe that Anna and I could find our way back to those moments if we could only weather this storm. Suddenly, the beeping of my phone made my chest tighten with trepidation. A message from my father flashed on the screen. Things are getting complicated with Anna, but I can talk to the doctors more about it. Hang tight. Was it too late for explanations? My heart raced at the thought of Anna, alone and perhaps frightened, in some sterile room far away. I pictured her eyes narrowing with frustration, her laughter now a distant echo overshadowed by worry. I couldn't bear the weight of what we were losing, the invisibility cloak of the hospital now draping over us all, stifling connection and invigoration. It's not fair, I murmured, half to myself and half to her. Love was supposed to bring us together, but instead a wave of hopelessness engulfed me anew. The girl, closely observing my sorrow, stepped closer, her small hand reaching out to touch my leg. You love her, right? She asked, her earnestness grounding me. More than I can say, I responded quietly, the truth slicing deeply within me. But how do I show it when everything feels so broken? Just tell her the truth. She proclaimed, a passionate glint in her eyes. Tell her you're scared and that it's okay to feel that way. She'll want to know you're brave, even when you're sad. As if the universe had conspired to hand me a lifeline, I realized that open communication was the bridge I desperately needed. How had I let fear hold me captive? If love did have the power to heal, perhaps my willingness to be vulnerable might just be that first step. Thank you, I whispered to her, meeting her earnest gaze with gratitude. You make me feel brave. Before she could respond, another unexpected intrusion interrupted our moment. A sudden commotion coursed through the waiting area. A nurse hurried past, her voice urgent as she spoke into her radio. We need a doctor in triage, now. Trauma alert in progress. My heart lurched again as I locked eyes with the little girl, fear mirrored in her small features. What does that mean? She asked, her voice tapered with trepidation. It means something else is wrong, I muttered, uncertainty prickling at the edges of my heart. The heaviness of dread settled over us both, and I couldn't help but wonder, would this news be that final blow? What if Anna was destined to become another tragic tale neatly tucked away on another forgotten shelf of a hospital? Just then, my father re-entered the waiting room, his face laden with the weight of the world. He caught my eye, his expression too grave to interpret. The knot tightened in my stomach, and I felt the little girl's hand slip back into mine, grounding me once again. Joseph, my father began, his voice steady, I think we need to make a decision. A decision? My pulse quickened. I wasn't ready for this. I needed her voice, her libido guide me. Before I could search my father's face for further explanation, a third buzz sounded on my phone. Panic flooded my veins as I fumbled to unlock it, unsure if I could bear yet another piece of bad news. But what I saw made my breath hitch. Another text from Anna. This time, it wasn't an apology or a declaration of her predicament. It was simply a picture. My heart fell into the icy grip of despair as I opened it, stunned by what unveiled before my eyes. It was a photo of her hospital bracelet, but not just any bracelet, the one belonging to the little girl standing beside me. The implications sank in like a stone. My heart raced as the tiny fingers wrapped around my hand felt like a tether to reality. What's wrong? She asked, her innocent eyes searching mine for assurance. But all I could do was stare at the screen, the world spinning away from me. She's here, in the same hospital. I finally managed to breathe. My mind raced, tangled in a web of realization and confusion. The little girl's face lit up with surprise, her grip tightening as she took her cue from my fear. "That's good, isn't it?" she chirped, her optimism unwavering as if to shield me from the darkness threatening to engulf us both. "Then you can tell her you love her." "Yes, you're right," I almost shouted, an unexpected surge of clarity cutting through the fog of anxiety. This was my chance not just for me, but for Anna, too. I have to go see her. My voice gathered strength as I stood up and turned to my father, his expression galvanizing my resolve. "Dad, I need to go find Anna." "But the doctors," he began, hesitating, but I cut through his apprehension. "I don't care what the doctors say right now. This is a Nami sister. I can't let this moment slip away. Not again." My father's eyes softened, and for a heartbeat, an unspoken understanding flickered between us, solidifying the bond that had fractured under the weight of our ambitions. "Then let's go," he finally said, determination shining through the cracks of his weariness. Together, we moved swiftly through the hallways. As we ascended to Anna's floor, my heart drummed a reckless rhythm. I could almost hear the echo of the little girl's voice urging me, reminding me to be brave. Her presence had sparked something inside me, an undeniable truth that love could still reach across the chasms of uncertainty. The elevator doors opened, and we rushed into a bustling corridor, the air thick with murmurs and the beeping of machinery. I could feel my father's hand resting on my shoulder, steady and reassuring, his shared apprehension fueling my own determination. Finding room 302, my breath caught as I reached for the handle, hesitating as I wondered what this reunion would entail. Would we address all our past pains? Would there be forgiveness? I paused, recalling the words from that innocent girl's mother, the echo of need for connection ringing louder than the fear of sorrow. Before I could question these thoughts any longer, I pushed the door open. The room was dim but warm, a flickering light illuminating Anna's vulnerable frame, sprawled against the hospital sheets while monitors murmured nearby. She stirred, her expression weary but familiar. A flood of emotions surged through Mirleaf, fear, love, and I felt as though I might shatter at the seams. "Joseph?" she croaked, her voice breaking through the haze that had enshrouded both of us for so long. And in that moment, all the barriers we'd built collapsed into dust, revealing the raw tenderness lying beneath our years of silence. "Hey," I managed, my voice thick with emotion. "I'm here." I stepped closer, the gravity of unspoken words hanging between us. "I'm so sorry for everything, for not being there when you needed me." "It's okay. It's been hard for both of us," she murmured, her gaze steadying on mine as her breath hitched. "But I need you to be okay." I swallowed, the truth of her words grounding me deeper in my resolve. "I love you, Anna. No matter what has happened between us, I love you, and I want you to know that you don't have to fight alone anymore." Tears pooled in her eyes, mirroring my own. "I thought I was losing you," she admitted softly, her words laced with vulnerability. "I didn't know how to reach out. But you did." "At the right moment," I whispered, my heart swelling as I remembered the little girl's conviction that speaking truths mattered. "We're here together now. No more hiding." The warmth of our shared understanding enveloped us, wrapping like a comforting blanket in the cold corridors of uncertainty. It was unspoken but clear, we would carve out a new path together, bolstered by the strength of our love and the courage to embrace vulnerability. "I am so glad you're okay," she said, her voice steadier now. A small smile broke through the clouds of anxiety. It ignited something in me, a defiant spark that reminded me of the little girl and her mother, their wisdom reflecting in our journey. My heart swelled with gratitude, the bond strengthening between us. "Anna," I continued, urgency rising within me, "can I share something?" "Of course," she replied, her curiosity piqued. "There was something a little girl told me today, in the waiting area." I took a deep breath, my thoughts swirling into clarity. "She said that love is the best medicine." Laughter bubbled from Anna, a beautiful melody that pulled at the threads holding the burdens of our past. "Well, I certainly believe that. Especially with my favorite squeaky chickeno, the joy it brings." I hope that once this is all over, we can build our future with more laughter, toys, joy, I replied earnestly, the simple analogies of childhood now steeped with meaning. Because life has always meant more when shared, the sincerity in her eyes mirrored mine. Promise, promise. We shared a smile, one carved from a renewed commitment wrapped tightly in love, courage, and promises of tomorrow. Just then, the little girl's voice echoed in my mind, not a real voice, but an echo of all she had represented. Tell her you love her, even when things feel broken. Spurred forward by that vulnerable power, I reached for Anna's hand. Together, we stepped into the warmth of connection illuminated by the ever-present specter of love. As we forged ahead, face to face with whatever life might throw our way, I felt the warmth of hope thickening the air around us, guiding us onward, reminding me all the while that despite the tumult of life, love had a way of leading us back to what mattered most. Because love, real love, is not just a promise, it's a practice, effortlessly stitched together not just by dreams and ambitions, but by the sticky, beautiful mess of being human together. In that shared moment of clarity, of raw vulnerability, I knew in the depths of my heart that we would find our way back home. As we stood united against the tides of uncertainty, I whispered the words that weighed heavily on my soul, echoing far beyond that hospital room. I won't let you go again, and in that moment, I truly believed together, we could build everything anew.